This is the video I wish existed when I wanted to learn how chicken rice hawkers cut up their chicken expertly and plate it beautifully. You see, in Singapore hawker centres, a man is usually behind a counter doing the chopping and removal of the bones and then deliver a plate of boneless chicken meat to you. But I was determined to learn how they do it, so I found some YouTube videos of people showing their craft, and after analysing their technique and trying it out on many chickens, I found an easy, beginner-friendly way of cutting up the chicken, which I would like to take you step by step to remove every bone so that we have a delicious plate of chicken meat and just the meat. I would also explore various presentation styles, garnishes to spruce up the plate, and my ideal seasoning ratio to eat the chicken with. So while I cook the chickens, let's discuss why we want our chicken served boneless. But before that, I upgraded to a bigger pot to do another test, as one of my viewers mentioned that there's a difference between a chicken that's dunked 3 to 4 times in hot water versus one that is simply inserted into the water. We'll taste for any difference later, but anyway, when it comes to serving the chicken, traditionally it is served bone in, as it was probably more convenient to just take the chicken apart, chop and serve. The best pieces are in fact the bones, where you can nibble the sweeter meat off them. But in modern days, it's more convenient to eat without any bones, and customers probably started favouring the boneless meat store over the store that serves bone-in meat. In my view, there are 2 other benefits to remove the bones before serving. One is a smoother eating experience without any bone chips or fragments that can come with chopping. 2 is that we can boil the bones further with water to extract its flavour and make a really good chicken stock to make any other dish taste better, and is also a key ingredient, as we found, for good chicken rice. But why not just boil boneless chicken meat to begin with and then slice them up? I mean, sure, we could do that, but it takes away some of the fun, like hanging whole chickens to attract customers. Anyway, I've set up this top-down view so that we can share the same point of view of doing this, as I want to show clearly how I do it, and I really want you to succeed trying this. So first off, the easiest method in my opinion uses a kitchen scissors to remove the spine. Cut along the sides of the spine by starting at the tail. If the scissors get stuck, feel free to just use both hands to snip through any bones. Then, with the other hand, counter push the front of the bird as you cut your way through the spine until the neck and stop. Repeat for the other side. Basically, the scissors is cutting through the small bones of the rib cage, and I find this an easier method compared to how the grandmasters cleave through the spine. Like, that's insane. Anyway, lift the spine up from the tail and then cut horizontally through any skin, and there we have the full spine head to tail. Now, grab our cleaver and aim for the center of the chicken. Rest the blade at the center and give a few decisive taps to cleave through the bone. Slice through to make sure it's fully separated, and both chicken halves should come apart nicely like this. Set one half aside and we'll first remove the wing. Lift the wing tip, slide the blade in, and slice about halfway through as you simultaneously pry the wing apart with the other hand. You should start to see this white part, which is the cartilage, and this is always where we want to slice through for a nice clean cut without any bone bits. We'll debone the wing later, but first, remove the thigh by very gently slicing through the skin over here, and again use the other hand to pry it open while applying gentle pressure on the body to pull the leg apart. Slice through any skin in between and the thigh comes apart. Now the breast. Grip it like a tennis ball and make a small slit at the tip here. Hold the bone down with the blade as you pull the breast out in a tearing motion with the thumb underneath. We'll be left with the tenderloin, and slowly run your thumb underneath also, and likewise tear it from the bone bit by bit. Now we have the 3 main parts, the wing, the thigh and the breast. To separate the drumstick from the thigh, there is another cartilage at about the diagonal corner over here. Rest the blade here, and with a few light taps, it should feel like cutting through an apple easily. If not, the blade is on a bone which we don't want to cut through. And if done right, you should again see the white cartilage clearly and no bone marrow. So in a chicken rice store, I think this is how hawkers prep the parts first before service. You can order the wing, the thigh or the drum meat or the breast meat, and we'll deal with them one at a time. So, to debone the wing, look for the inner side like the armpit. We're going to remove the mid-wing bone, so flip to the inner side and bend the wing tip at the joint and pull it down against the two mid-bone wings to reveal the ends. Use a C-grip on the other hand to hold the meat down securely and then twist slightly while pulling the smaller wing bone out. The bigger wing bone can also be twisted up like a lever and then twisted again to remove from the joint. Then debone the drumlet by making a slice in the middle, scraping the bone down to a Y shape to slice off the tendons holding the bone. Then pinch underneath the bone to get a good grip, lift it up again like a lever, and twist to pull it apart while securing the meat again with a pinch grip. Flip the wing over gently and remove the wingtip by slicing at the diagonal corner again where the cartilage is, and it comes out nicely. So there we have a boneless wing. I learned how to do this by applying the same technique of removing the bones from a raw chicken wing. To further debone the thigh meat, notice that there is a straight bone underneath here ending at where the cartilage is. Use a C-grip again to protect your fingers while holding the thigh with the thumb underneath, and gently use the blade to make a slice, scraping the bone to reveal it, and then make a Y-shaped cut again at the end of it to cut through the tendons holding the bone together. Put the blade down and get a pinch grip underneath the bone. Lift the bone up again like a lever to dislocate the bone while the other hand applies gentle pressure on the meat. Then twist to fully release it. The thigh bone is out. Now with this remaining bone here, use your thumb to go underneath and tear the bone apart while the other hand presses down on the meat, and slowly work your way to the end. Flip the thigh over and we have our beautiful thigh meat deboned with the skin intact. For the drumstick, start by holding the thicker part as you hold the blade down on the skinniest part of the drum. Rotate the drum to slice through a tendon and the skin. Then hold it up as you try to make a slice down towards the cartilage and again in this Y shape. You should feel the blade scraping the bone. Put the knife down and with a pinch grip again, get hold of the bone and lift it up while holding the meat down securely with a C-grip to squeeze any meat off the bone. Twist to release any tendons to fully release the bone. Flip the meat over and we have our nice boneless drum meat. So there we have it, the advanced deboning of the limbs from the boneless wing to the thigh and the drum. The breast and the tenderloin have already been deboned earlier, and it's normal actually to have a little bit of meat left attached to the bone, but nothing goes to waste as we will make chicken stock out of it later. Now to cut the meat, I'll start with the tenderloin first by making even cuts. Rest the blade on top and then make a decisive tap to slice through the meat. Make even cuts, and the key to making this look nice is to ensure that the blade is vertical and the force applied is also straight downwards so that the cut is like a clean chop. Then using a cleaver like a bench scraper, or you can use the real one if you like, scoop up the meat onto the serving plate. Continue with the same with the breast. Nice even cuts. For the thigh and the drum, make evenly spaced cuts too using the tapping method against the grain of the meat. I made the cuts a little too thin here and should have made it a little thicker like 1 cm or half an inch thick for a better look and a generous piece of meat. For the wing, I like to leave the mid-wing as is and just separate the drumlet from the mid-wing to get this nice nugget of meat. Now practice the same with the other half of the chicken. When you feel more comfortable, you can use the blade to hold down the meat or the bone while the other hand tears the meat apart. If not, you can always use your hands, and when you feel even more comfortable, feel free to use a freehand chop to cut the meat into pieces quicker, but just make sure your fingers stay clear. To arrange on the plate, there are 3 methods. I like the first one, which is to reconstruct the chicken with the fillet in first at the center of the plate, followed by the breast on top so we can see the shiny skin. Then place the dark meat, which is the thigh, drumstick and wing at the outer side so that we know where is the dark meat or the white meat. The second method is to just pile them all up just like in a hawker center, usually for smaller orders like half a chicken. Though it makes a nice meaty pile, I don't prefer this as I want to know where the dark meat or the white meat is. The third method is to serve it on a plated bowl of rice for a single serving. Fill a bowl with rice, then invert it and release slowly to get a nice round presentation. Cut up some meat of choice and then scoop it over and lightly press it on the rice, skin side up. So these are the three main methods of serving the chicken depending on the serving size. So when it comes to seasoning, remember our chicken is still unseasoned at this point. So a drizzling sauce is made from light soy sauce, a scoop of the poaching liquid, and a drizzle of sesame oil for extra fragrance. I usually eyeball the amount, so this is the first time I actually weighed them, and it turns out to be like a 1:7:0.2 ratio. Now drizzle the sauce over the chicken, especially at the gaps to season the meat evenly. To find out what would be the ideal ratio of the ingredients for this sauce, let's vary them and try it out with a little more or a little less soy sauce, all else equal. Turns out that we prefer a moderate amount of saltiness to let the natural flavors of the chicken shine through. Any lighter than this makes the sauce quite bland. Typical stalls outside tend to serve a saltier version, but we prefer to keep a balance between the flavor and also a healthy sodium intake. How about a little more or a little less sesame oil? We prefer more on the oily side as it gives a richer sesame flavor which we like. Overall, the ratio of this sauce that we like best is 1:7:0.5 soy sauce to poaching liquid to sesame oil for our palate. Now the garnishing is optional, but it gives a nicer presentation with coriander leaves. I like to place the leaves in the middle to cover the part where there is no chicken skin. For the coriander roots and leaves, as suggested by one of our viewers, it also adds a nice fragrance to the rice if we boil it in the stock. So we tried rice made with it and rice made with just plain stock without it, and we actually prefer the one with coriander as it gives an extra layer of subtle grassy fragrance, which reminds me of those old school chicken rice. I like it, and thank you to this viewer for this recommendation. So back to garnishing, actually the most common garnish is cucumber slices, but there's another benefit. It helps to cleanse the palate or even prop up the meat to make it look fuller. A tomato also works to add some color too, usually at the fancier places. The cucumber skin is first peeled to get just the crispy juicy flesh, then slice into halves, scrape out all the seeds, and I started to make slanted cuts to get nice long strips of cucumber. But this looks more like crescent shape and not the typical straight wedges. So I halved the cucumber again, and turns out I need a quartered cucumber and slice it at a steep diagonal to get these wedges. The second method is to just cut them into circles, but this way looks a little more fancy on the plate. So regarding the test earlier, is there a difference between a dunking chicken versus one that isn't dunked and simply inserted into the water? I checked the meat and found that both chicken meat is really quite the same, and I didn't notice any difference, apart from the surface temperature spikes in the beginning, which is expected. But I learnt one more lesson here as I noticed why the cook time for the chicken on top is longer than the one below, and I think it's definitely due to how the chicken below is closer to the heat source, so it cooks faster. My updated guess as to why some hawker stalls had salmonella in the past is because the chickens were cooked in a giant pot and the chickens on top were taken out altogether with the ones below, resulting in some undercooked chickens. So I guess hawkers have adapted by cooking the whole batch longer to ensure every chicken in the pot is cooked, even if it means the ones underneath are slightly overdone. Hope this detailed tutorial helps you to serve a plate of boneless Hainanese chicken meat at home. Enjoy!